A woman's cry for help sealed their fates for the next 75 days. Yet it was these very words that would haunt her with regret in the days to come. For from this moment on their lives were inextricably bound together. In the sub-zero desolation of Antarctica at 40 degrees C, they were each other's only burden, yet also each other's only spark of survival. Fortunately, this man, whom she once utterly despised, used a 75-day countdown of life and death to show her the true meaning of living, and more importantly, what it means to experience the purest form of love.
No matter how many teeth you have left, or if you truly become a cripple in the future, no matter how many days you go without a shower, whether you smell sweet or foul, I will always love you until death do us part.
This is more than just a movie. It is a challenge issued by Chinese filmmakers against the most extreme environments. It is the first feature film in human history to be shot on location on the Antarctic continent. This is till the end of the world. The story begins on a small chartered flight to Antarctica with the protagonist Wu Fukun. A typical nouveau riche, he intends to expand his wedding business to the frozen continent. Dressed in designer labels, his every word and gesture flaunts his wealth and success. Fukun is a character who believes money is omnipotent, thinking that everything in the world can be appraised and commercialized, including Antarctica, the world's last pure land. This sets up a starkly contrasting starting point for his eventual transformation. His complete opposite is Jin Ruyi. He is a high-altitude physicist with a cold, calm, and focused demeanor. She is here for a scientific project waiting for the polar night to fall, to observe and study her lifelong passion, the aurora. She feels a deep-seated repulsion toward Wu Fukun's vulgarity. She didn't even bother to return his handshake. As the plane flew deep into the heart of Antarctica, a sudden blizzard struck, swallowing the entire aircraft in an instant. The pilot tried to force a climb to break through the clouds, but to no avail. Ultimately, the plane's right wing struck a towering iceberg looming in the storm. The engine immediately caught fire, and the powerful airflow even sucked the pilot out of the cabin, leaving the plane completely out of control. It plummeted straight down toward the Antarctic ice sheet. After an unknown amount of time, Wu Fukun woke from the violent impact and unconsciousness. The other passengers showed no signs of life then amidst the wreckage. He discovered the sole survivor, Jin Ruyi. Her lower body was pinned under heavy steel wreckage, leaving her unable to move, able only to squeeze a faint, desperate cry for help from her throat.
Help me.
Wu Fukun didn't hesitate for a second. Grabbing his suitcase full of valuables and stumbling toward the hatch, escape alone. He had only one thought in mind: to survive. This moment is a raw interrogation of human nature by the film. The director didn't shy away from such inglorious human frailties, which only makes the subsequent plot even more powerful and moving. Perhaps his conscience awakened at the last moment. He resolutely threw away his suitcase and turned back, exerting every ounce of his strength, used a tool he found to pry open the heavy steel plate. Just seconds before the plane was completely submerged, Fukun dragged Ruyi out from the abyss of death by sheer force. They survived. But they were merely alive from this moment on. The lives of these two people from different worlds became tightly bound together by an invisible thread of fate. In Antarctica, a brief lull in the wind doesn't mean safety. Instead, it may be the harbinger of an even greater disaster. With her extensive scientific experience, Ruyi keenly observed the horizon. Sensing the approach of danger from the changing cloud patterns, ignoring the agony of her broken leg, she decisively directed the bewildered Fukun. This underscores the absolute value of knowledge in extreme environments. Though Ruyi was physically incapacitated, her mind became the key to their mutual survival. She knew of the Antarctic katabatic winds, storms with extreme velocities, and freezing temperatures, digging a snow cave in the open. Thus indeed the only effective primitive form of shelter. Finally, before the gale completely engulfed the land, they huddled into a narrow snow cave and narrowly managed to survive. After the storm, the sky returned to a state of desolately pure clarity. Searching for any possible way to contact the outside world, Fukun decided to climb to the summit of the highest nearby snow mountain. He naively fantasized that he might catch a faint signal from the heights, but the signal bars on his screen remained dead silent. In a fit of rage and despair, he roared at the heavens and hurled his phone away with all his might. But due to the excessive force, he slipped and tumbled awkwardly down from the peak. Yet this seemingly fatal fall unexpectedly revealed a glimmer of hope for survival. The foot of a nearby slope, there stood an abandoned cabin buried under the snow. Meanwhile, Ruyi, who had stayed behind, faced a new crisis. A flock of predatory South Polar skuas, after scavenging the remains of another deceased passenger, turned their greedy eyes toward the immobile Ruyi. The skua is a vital scavenger in the Antarctic food chain. Their presence is a manifestation of nature's cruel laws. This scene also underscores Ruyi's vulnerability. and her total dependence on Fukun. Just as the skuas were about to attack, Fu Cheng rushed back in time, driving the flock away. He gave the deceased a simple burial in the snow, preserving their final dignity. Then he hoisted Ruyi onto his shoulders and struggled toward the cabin. Ruyi's tibia had been severely fractured in the crash. The displaced bone had even pierced through her skin. Ruyi realized that if the bone wasn't reset immediately, it would lead to extensive muscle necrosis and infection. The end result would be either amputation or death. With no medical experience, Fuchun had to steel himself and follow Ruyi's instructions. Amid Ruyi's heart-wrenching screams, he used sheer brute force to snap the dislocated bone back into place. The horrifying sound of bones grinding was followed by Ruyi fainting from the excruciating pain. The visceral realism of this scene is unsettling, yet it is crucial. It forcibly shattered the final barriers between them, forging a bond of life and death trust that transcends language and status. After setting the bone, an awkward physiological issue arose. Unable to move, Ruyi needed to use the toilet but found it too embarrassing to mention. Fu Hun instantly sensed her predicament and without a word took a saw to cut a hole in the wooden bed and placed an iron basin underneath. This clumsy yet sincere display of gallantry marks the second time Fukun's underlying humanity shines through. It was this moment of privacy that led Fukun to an incredible discovery outside. He found an oil storage tank next to the cabin, which surprisingly still contained 800 liters of diesel. An old generator nearby also miraculously hummed to life. With the roar of the machine, the lights in the cabin flickered on. The electric heater began to radiate warmth with the arrival of light and heat, turning this isolated wooden cabin into a Noah's Ark amidst the boundless ice sheet. To their surprise, they found a significant stockpile of canned food inside. Noticing the familiar Chinese characters on the cans and drawing on her professional expertise, Ruyi made a bold and precise deduction.
Maybe we are only 20 kilometers away from China's Aurora Station.
But lurking behind that hope lay a deeper sense of despair. This peninsula, flanked by the sea on three sides with no navigation equipment, covering 20 kilometers, was like searching for a needle in a haystack. The cold calculations of survival were laid bare. Ruyi calculated that with only 800 liters of diesel, even if used sparingly for heating, it would last 75 days at most, and after those 75 days, Antarctica would transition from polar day to polar night. Temperatures would plummet off a cliff. Without diesel for heating, they would be frozen alive. Faced with this grim countdown, Fukun's inherent stubborn tenacity was fully ignited.
Is to death.
Then we'll find it within 75 days. I refuse to believe it can't be found. I'd rather damn well die trying on the road.
Wu Fuhun became the trailblazer while Jin Ruyi served as the strategist back at base. On his first expedition, Fukun still held a bit of a tourist's curiosity, finding everything in Antarctica to be a novelty. But a sudden avalanche left him battered and humiliated, giving him his first real taste of Antarctica's true perils. An even grimmer test awaited walking for hours across highly reflective snow. Without professional goggles, he soon succumbed to the dreaded snow blindness. Snow blindness, clinically known as photokeratitis, is caused by intense ultraviolet rays reflected off the snow, burning the corneas. This is an extremely common yet hazardous condition in polar exploration. It causes excruciating pain, tearing, and even temporary blindness. Film realistically portrays this common hazard of polar survival. Blinded by the snow, Fukun breaks down in tears inside the cabin. Ruyi, hearing his desperate cries, calls out his name with all her might.
Fukun.
Her voice acts as a beacon of light, guiding him through the darkness as he crawls back to their only sanctuary. Later, Ruyi meticulously crafts a pair of snow goggles from fabric to protect him. This small gesture is filled with deep care and tenderness. During his second trek, while returning with fish to nourish Ruyi, he unexpectedly plunges into a bottomless crevasse. Fortunately, he lands on an ice ledge, narrowly escaping certain death. For a moment he is tempted to give up, but the thought of Ruyi waiting for him in the cabin transforms his longing into a fierce instinct for survival. With only a small ice axe, he painstakingly carves into the ancient ice, hewing out a path to life with his bare hands. Inside the cabin, having waited for 4 agonizing days and nights, Ruyi sinks into utter despair. The snapping of the generator's pull cord becomes the final blow. That breaks her will to live. She calmly picks up a sharp can lid and slits her wrist. The director employs a classic parallel editing technique here, juxtaposing their dual descents into darkness. Fukun struggles in a physical abyss of ice, while Ruyi sinks into an emotional one. Their existences are inextricably linked. One's surrender inevitably seals the other's fate. This portrayal of intertwined destinies is the core of the film's emotional power. Just as Ruyi's life begins to fade, an exhausted Fukun finally returns. With his remaining body heat and the fish soup he risked his life for, he snatches Ruyi back from the jaws of death. With time running out, he prepares to set off once again, leaving behind a most soulful farewell before his departure.
If you truly can't wait any longer, or if I don't make it back, I hope you at least burn through all the diesel. Only after finishing every last may you let yourself go.
His third expedition, Fukun ventures onto the ice once more to fish for food. A massive Antarctic whale glides slowly beneath the ice. Before he can even admire this breathtaking spectacle, a flick of the whale's tail shatters the ice, plunging Fukun into the freezing sea. Beneath the frozen surface, he cannot find an exit. Suffocation and the extreme cold lead him to slowly give up the fight. Just then, a group of penguins darts past, guiding him to an opening in the ice. This scene is thick with fatalism and ecological symbolism. The penguins' appearance seems like nature's way of repaying his previous kindness toward them. Under the Antarctic Treaty, humans are forbidden from initiating contact with animals. Thus, these shots are the result of blending real footage with visual effects. The filming was immensely difficult and dangerous as Fukun crawls from the sea. His soaked clothes instantly freeze into a suit of ice armor. Trembling, he eats the fruit candy Ruyi insisted he carry. Fueled by that sliver of warmth and his longing for Ruyi, he teeters on the brink of unconsciousness, but tenaciously struggles back to the cabin. Now it is Ruyi's turn to use her own body heat to slowly thaw, the deadly frost clinging to his skin. These ordeals have irrevocably bound Fukun and Ruyi together, transforming them from savior and survivor into each other's spiritual anchors within a shared destiny of life and death. As the days pass, against the backdrop of encroaching despair, the atmosphere in the cabin begins to bloom with a strange sense of warmth and romances. They adopted a baby penguin that wandered into the cabin. Fukun even named it Xiaopang Chubby. Fukun abandoned the absurd idea of steaming or braising it and used a spare sled to take the recovering Ruyi for walks under the warm Antarctic sun. On the fourth expedition, Fukun found a strange rock in the wilderness. Excitedly thought it was a priceless Martian meteorite, only for Ruyi to identify it as human feces.
Holy shit. This is a goddamn turd. What? Meteor, more like a meteorite.
This meteorite is a brilliant irony of Fukun's past values. In Antarctica, a mountain of gold isn't worth a single calorie-rich candy. Though this shitterite is a joke, it provides a crucial clue.
This is definitely human waste.
They realized the Aurora station might be near the shitterite, and both were instantly exhilarated. Fukun noticed Ruyi's nosebleed. Ruyi, suffering from severe scurvy due to a prolonged lack of vitamin C. Scurvy was one of the most feared diseases among early explorers, causing bleeding gums, tooth loss, subcutaneous hemorrhaging, and eventual organ failure. In Antarctica, without fresh produce, it is practically incurable. This diagnosis pushes them into a true terminal illness crisis. Knowing her days were numbered, Ruyi hoped Fukun would abandon her a dying burden and take the remaining supplies to find a way to survive alone. He used logic to push her away, hoping she would survive.
Better to part and survive than to cling and perish together.
Facing Ruyi's cold logic, this man who once lived for profit and calculated every gain and loss made the most selfless decision of his life. He knelt on one knee, reaching across the void, placing an imaginary ring on her finger with a trembling yet firm voice. He spoke the most important vows of his life.
Whether in wealth or in poverty, whether in sickness or in health, no matter how many teeth you lose, no matter if you truly become disabled in the future, no matter how many days it's been since you bathed, whether you smell sweet or foul, I will always love you until death do us part. Jin Hui, are you willing here at the end of the world to accept Wu Fukun as your lawful husband? Better to forget each other in the outside world than to sustain each other in times of hardship.
Thank you. I do not. I want you to live on well and strong.
This is the emotional climax of the film. It completely subverts the material foundation of love and marriage in modern society. There are no diamond rings, no wedding dresses, no guests, and not even a healthy body. Yet this vow is heavier and more precious than any promise built on material wealth. It proves that the essence of love is a spiritual contract that transcends life, death, and the material world. At the end of the world, these two lonely souls held a wedding, meant only for themselves. Day 75 arrives as expected. The last of the diesel is gone. The generator falls silent forever, and the Antarctic polar night is about to descend, dragging her extremely weakened body. Ruyi compiles a detailed Antarctic survival manual for Fukun. She insists that Fukun takes all the remaining supplies for one final desperate search, and tells him never to come back. As they part, they look at each other in silence. There's no wailing, only a quiet despair and a profound lingering attachment. For both knew in their hearts that this farewell would likely be their last. Fukun embarked on a journey of no return, eventually exhausting his last ounce of strength and collapsing amidst the blizzard. The little penguin they had once nurtured miraculously reappeared, waking him with its cries and guiding him toward the Aurora Station sign in the distance. He was finally rescued. Yet the cruelty of fate was far from over. At the time Fukun rushed back with the rescue team, a massive avalanche thundered down before his very eyes, instantly swallowing the cabin that held all their memories of the past 75 days. Fukun watched everything vanish into the white void, his heart shattered in agony. In the warmth of the research station's infirmary, Fukun's heart seemed to have died along with that avalanche. He had a dream of a simple wedding ceremony with Ruyi. Upon waking, he opened the survival journal Ruyi had left for him. Every word revealed the profound love hidden beneath her icy exterior, saying the Bodhisattva pendant Ruyi had placed in the notes. He suddenly had an epiphany. He recalled what Ruyi had once told him. She wanted to watch the aurora from the mountaintop, for that was where she belonged. He realized that with her spirit, Ruyi would never just sit in the cabin and wait for death. Ignoring his injuries, he desperately drove the snowmobile, racing toward the edge of the world to the cliff where they had once gazed out together. Above, the magnificent aurora blossomed like an ethereal dream. Inside a snow cave he had once dug for survival, he found Ruyi. She lay there peacefully, as if drifting in a deep slumber. Fukun held her tight, and beneath the resplendent aurora, Rui's monologue echoed through the wind.
When I am at rest, I want you to live on. I will be waiting for you. May your ears continue to hear the wind's call. And breathe in all that we once loved together, the scent of the sea. Continue to walk upon the beaches we once shared. May my beloved live on. I once loved you and sang of all things for your sake. You must remain radiant, letting your life bloom in full.
This open ending is the ultimate sublimation of the film's artistry. Whether Ruyi lives or dies, the movie provides no definitive answer. But perhaps the answer no longer matters on a physical level. She may have passed away, but on a spiritual level, she has become the aurora she pursued all her life, achieving eternity. She used her life to illuminate the path for Fuchun's future. This blending of reality and metaphor allows this love story to transcend life and death, entering a broader philosophical and poetic realm. Till the End of the World uses the most extreme environment to tell a story of stripping away and returning. It strips the characters of their social status, wealth, and appearance, returning them to the most essential state of being human. In that world where nothing exists but life and death, a man who once believed that money could buy everything realized what is truly precious: dignity. Trust and a love that transcends death are priceless. This film captures the warmest human emotions in the coldest place on earth. Chuangzi wrote in The Great Master, when the spring dries up the fish are stranded on land. They moisten each other with spit, but it is better to forget each other in the rivers and lakes. The film is a profound response to this classical Chinese philosophy. Within a modern context, Ruyi rationally tries to forget each other, urging Fukun to survive alone. But Fukun, driven by his raw emotional grit, chooses to sustain her with the very last drop of his blood. Fukun's choice tells us what truly makes us human. It is not because we are capable of the most rational calculations, but precisely because we can in our most irrational moments make the most humane choices. Love is not a mere romantic embellishment. It is the fundamental law of survival that sustains human civilization. May everyone who has watched this film find amidst the blizzards of their own lives a companion who is willing to hand you a fruit candy and say the words, "I will wait for you." And may we all have the courage, when facing life's dead ends and abysses, to remain fearless of the cold. Tread through the snow to find the light, for true love means at the end of the world, one is still willing to shield you from the frost even if your teeth all fall out. Or you become a cripple, they would still take you as their wife.